I think you know that you have a simple replicable business model when you can answer the question, what would I do with £1 million? People have sort of almost like paralysis of just starting something. You think it's going to be this big thing, and it's not, because nobody really cares. It is just you are the only problem. By being in nature and trying to empty my head makes me so much more present in every other aspect of my life. Surround yourself with brilliant people. I think that's both personal and professional life. You don't always need to know the answer at all. You just need to know that there's a question.
Hello, welcome back to the Stepping Bricks YouTube channel. My name is Dr. Giuseppe Paladini. I'm here today with someone that I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of times in person. And every conversation with Sarah leaves you thinking a little bit deeper. So I'm here with Sarah Willingham. Hello, Sarah, how are you?
Hello, it's so good to see you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, fantastic. Now, you have, you're a serial entrepreneur, if I can say that. So I remember one thing you mentioned when we met the first time was that you can recognize if a business is scalable, by the look of it, but you don't feel too much comfortable creating it from scratch. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I think in a way, I think I was quite lucky, but I realized quite early that I'm not the creator. I often say, if you give me a blank sheet of paper, I'll stare at it, but you give me 5 bullet points, I'll write you a book. I feel like I need that. I also don't know if I have the patience for it. I think when you start something from scratch as well, it's a lot. You've got to have a lot of time, and I'm not sure I'm good with that. I like scale and I like growth, and I think what I'm really good at is taking somebody else's, working with somebody else who's come up with the magic, and honing that magic, and then sort of putting systems and processes into place. And then scaling that business. And I think that's the bit that's my superpower.
All right. So you've been on Dragon's Den for 2 seasons, right? 2 years.
Yeah.
How did it feel?
I loved it. It's not something that I ever expected to be doing. But I really enjoyed it. You have to find a sixth gear and stay there. And it was almost I think the thing that surprised me the most about it was just how much I enjoyed this sort of element of teamwork between the dragons. And I don't necessarily mean collaborative teamwork, because it's not always collaborative, actually. And it's actually way more competitive than I think everybody realizes. But the thing that I really, really liked was sitting with 5, I was the 5th, sitting with 4 other people who were just really clever and saw things in a different way than I would. So what I loved was just 5 different brains looking at a business, and the questions that they would ask, I'd think, my God, I would never have thought to ask that. That's absolutely brilliant. So I really enjoyed that element of it. And actually I learned a lot. I thought it was, I thought it was great. And of course, what's not to love? You sit in an armchair and 120 businesses pitch to you. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that ties a little bit, to the fact you need to surround yourself with people that are either ahead of the game or, they can be inspiring for you, so that you can then grow your business as a return as well, right?
Yes. I think it's the best piece of advice I was ever given in my 20s, with a guy who's still in my phone as Yoda, is that surround yourself with brilliant people. You don't, I think that's both personal and professional life. You don't always need to know the answer at all. You just need to know that there's a question, and you need to know who to phone. You need to have great people around you.
Yeah. So if you think of many people that start their own business, they might start for various reasons. Could be passion, could be they see an opportunity, etc. One of the main struggle, let's say, is to take that business off the ground.
Yeah.
Do you have something you can give to our audience, to give some advice on how to pass that painful part?
Yeah. So I don't know what else to say other than just do it. Like, oh, it's one of the most frustrating things. I think people have like sort of almost like paralysis of just
Mhm,
starting something. You think it's going to be this like big thing, and it's not, because really nobody really cares, if you know what I mean. Like, it is just you. You are the only problem. And so many people think, oh, I can't do it because I need funding and I need this and I need that. And I'm like, you don't actually, you just need to sell one thing. And then next week you need to sell two. And then the week
mhm,
after you need to sell four. You know, it's, you just need to get going. I think, you know, the worst thing is that your legacy is the person that came up with a great idea and you never did anything about it. So I
mhm,
think you just need to get going. And I think quite often you can actually start your business whilst you're like, as a side hustle. You can start it just to give it a go and see if it works.
mhm,
And I think a lot of people think, you know, I need, it's this big thing where I've got to give everything up and then I've got to get loads of investment and I'm never going to be able to do any of that. And as a result, you never do it. But actually, they just needed to sell something on the side. And at some point, it becomes apparent that actually it's a business in the making and you can just get going on it.
So I'm curious about the Sarah as a person rather than a businesswoman for a second. And I wanted to go back, if you were to go back like 10, 15 years, what did your life look like back then?
Um, so 10, 15 years. 10 years, not that different,
No,
really.
maybe more than
Yeah,
that.
15 years, quite different. So no, actually, not even, I think. Um, you know, I think if I go back further than that, you know, in my 20s, I had a job and absolutely loved it. I ran the international department at Pizza Express, and before that, I was looking after European franchises for Planet Hollywood. Like, loved it, absolutely loved it. You know,
Mhm,
learned a lot, met great people, traveled all over the world. Had no intention really of ever of breaking out on my own.
mhm,
Um, but I really wanted to have a family. Like, it was the most important thing to me. And I was very driven by the fact that when I did have a family, I wanted to have time. You know, if they were sick one morning, I didn't want somebody else to have controlled my diary. I actually wanted
mhm,
to be able to um, manage my own, I guess, control my own diary and manage my own time. And so it was really that that drove me to
mhm,
to be an entrepreneur. It was that that drove me to go on my own. Before then, I was like super happy working for other people. Like, I loved it. I was learning. I was well paid. You know, it was great. But it became quite obvious to me that, you know, having kids was going to mean I didn't really just want 4 weeks off a year.
mhm,
And it's not so much the 4 weeks off, it's more the flexibility. So, like, if something happens to me now and I can't work this Thursday, you know, or Friday, um, I can, if I want to catch up, I can sit down Sunday afternoon if I've got more time. You know, so nobody's dictating my time. And for me, that works really, really well, to be able to be that flexible.
mhm. And that was one of the reasons why you left after 2 seasons of Dragon's Den, right? So to prioritize family.
Yes. So we were just like, I had this dream of being able, my dad never let me take a gap year, and I had this dream of being able to take my children out of school and go traveling around the world and to do my gap year when I was
Mhm,
later. And we had, so when I was asked to do Dragon's Den, our plan was we were already in the process of kind of trying to make ourselves redundant from our own life. And we had planned to go traveling the following year. So the thing with TV is that you never really want to do one series because you never actually enjoy it. So I
mhm,
knew I had to do two. So I'd set Michael and I, my husband, sat and talked about it. And I said, look, if I agree to do this to do Dragon's Den, I have to do two series. which would mean moving us our travels 1 year, but I was not prepared to move it any more than that. And I'd said to the BBC, look, that I'm here for 2 seasons. But I actually think they didn't believe me. I think they thought, oh no, you'll love it so much and you'll enjoy the fame and all of that kind of stuff. And no, it was so important to me to do this. And actually we ended up going for 3 years, and it's without a doubt the best thing I've ever done in my life. So
Mm.
it was brilliant.
Yeah.
You can't
So,
never get those years back with your kids, right? You never get them. Never.
no, I mean, how many kids you have?
4.
Four. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my kids, I have two kids. So
Yeah.
everything changed when my first daughter was born,
Yeah.
and I can relate a lot.
Yeah.
Um, in business, there are so many people that think, okay, I need to prioritize business, but then it really, I mean, how can you balance that part? Is it really a life work
It's
balance or?
You know, I think it's all one big compromise, but I do think that you can find your balance. And I think everybody's balance is very, very different. And I think it's something you have to be very focused on and
Mhm,
committed to, and consistent with. So you have to, if that balance is your priority, it has to be your priority and it has to remain your priority. And I do think, I mean, I think it's the hardest thing to get right. I really do. I think it's really difficult to get right. But it's in getting it right. That's where the magic sits, right?
mhm,
That's the bit where life feels right.
mhm,
So yeah, I think it's the hardest thing to do, but I think if you commit to it, and you prioritize it, I think you can get it right for you and everybody. I do really believe that everybody's balance is very different.
mhm. Yes, Sarah, this is a question for me rather than for the audience, and then if they can relate, perfect. But I get asked, so I started, let's say, in business because of my kids, because I felt like something bigger than me
Yeah.
that needed to do this. And then I just kept momentum and continued and grew the businesses. But now I get asked this question, when do you stop? Or when is it enough? And I don't know the answer. I can't answer that. Do you have anything that you can give me? Because
I think if you firstly, I don't know if you ever need to stop. I think you perhaps need to change as life goes on and you enter different periods of your life. I think you stop when it takes more than it gives.
Hmm,
When it becomes too much and I don't necessarily mean stop, but you certainly need to change things if it consistently takes more than it gives. By the way, there are always periods where it takes more than it gives, like without a doubt. Even if I look at like the last 2 years with um Nightcap, which is the business that Michael and I started during COVID, the
hmm,
last 2 years have been so difficult. And I would say it has taken a lot more than it's given. Does that mean I stop? No. But it does mean I change things. So yes, okay, you've got to roll your sleeves up, you've got to muck in because it isn't easy.
hmm,
But I think you are aware that you need to recalibrate. You are aware that actually it's it because it takes more than it gives. You perhaps need to th- spend more of your spare time on your well-being, or you need to do more to counterbalance it if
hmm,
you're particularly going through a tough time. I think with work you need to really focus on managing your well-being and being better at looking after yourself, because work is actually quite tough. Does that
hmm.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a kind of evolution, right? So your priorities when you started are going to change. So
Exactly. And it's a constantly moving thing, actually, I think, balances. So, when do you stop? No idea. Absolutely none whatsoever.
I always say my exit strategy is death.
But it may well be that it happens sooner and you just think, you know what, I'm done. Like I've had
Mhm,
enough. I want to do something different, or you'll know. I think you have to just be honest with yourself and know yourself, and then when you do need to stop, you can stop, or you don't, you just change stuff, as I said.
Mhm. Yeah. So if we go back to business, let's say I still remember when you told me this thing, but I want to give you this opportunity as well to explain it again. So how do you scale a business?
Um, so the most important thing is you've got to find the sort of simple, replicable business model within your business. It's the thing that if you do the following, you
Mhm.
will get this. This will happen. So it's sort of the replicability of it. It's also, I think we might have talked about this before. Um, I was asked a really great question years and years ago that I now always use actually, and it wasn't my idea. Somebody asked me the same question. It was brilliant. What would you do with £1 million? So the reason why I think that question is really important is so many people say, oh, I need, £50,000 in investment, or I need to do, I don't have enough staff, or all these reasons why you can't progress, basically. I think that you have a simple, replicable business model when you can answer the question, what would I do with £1 million? And by that, what I mean is that scale. So if I spent £1 million on my business, what would I get back? So if, for example, you are a subscription beauty box, let's say, the chances are you've actually got your box and you know how to fill that every week. But where you struggle is not acquiring enough customers, and certainly not acquiring enough customers cheaply enough. So with £1 million, what would you do? If you have worked out your marketing model, you would spend it on marketing. So you'd spend £1 million and you'd probably get 4 million back. That would probably be your model. And you'd have to send out loads more boxes, which means you'd probably have to have a new logistics business. You'd probably have to have better suppliers, and you'd probably have to hire some more people into that department. So that would be the impact. But fundamentally, you know that actually what you have is a replicable model, because you just need to get more customers into the funnel at the top. And that's how it flows through. And then they most of them, let's say, most of them start subscribing, and most of them subscribe to a box that comes every 2 months, and then they tend to churn after 9 months. You'll have a model within there. That's if you've got a restaurant. So let's say you're Pizza Express. You spend £400,000 opening a Pizza Express. It will give you, this is kind of back in the day, 20% EBITDA, payback in 2 years, ROI of 60%, simple replicable business model. Give me the £1 million, I'll open you 2 sites. This is how much money it will generate over the next 5 years. Happy days, good return on investment. So it's looking at where is the model. Now, once you have that model, scale and growth comes from making sure that, I think, actually, I'll answer that slightly differently. One of
Mhm.
the things with entrepreneurs that's important is that ability to be able to almost flex after you've started. So you sort of go with the ebbs and flows of the consumer demand, of the macro environment, of your own business capabilities. And what often happens is that you find the business model within. So you're not quite there yet when you first start. And I think that's really important in terms of your journey towards scaling. The first bit is the proof of the concept and finding the business model. You're not ready to scale until you've done that. And so it might take you ages to get that right. When you get that right, you just do more of the same.
Yeah. And also remember you said as well as repeatable, the business needs to be, well, you need to be redundant to your business.
Yes, ultimately, I mean, that's the ultimate. That's almost every day. I think success within business is when I can make myself redundant, when it does
Mm.
not need me anymore. And I think that is something that we should all strive for, because when we start a business, we are doing big presentations to investors and the
Mhm.
bank, and we're also cleaning the toilets and buying the
Yeah.
tea bags, right? So as you progress, maybe you don't clean the toilets anymore, but you still buy the tea bags and you still do the investor presentations.
Mhm.
You might also you're probably packing the boxes as well in our beauty box example. Then time goes on a little bit and you're like, actually, it's not the best use of my time packing these boxes. Somebody else can do that job much, much better than me. And I would be better if I focus my time over here. And so you're constantly making
Mhm.
aspects of what you do redundant until ultimately what's great is if you only need to spend X amount of hours on the
Yeah.
business in a week, you have got the most simple replicable business model because
Mhm.
you're not there anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Do you think, Sarah, that most people that are in business fail because of strategy or because of identity?
Neither. I think most people fail in business because usually because of their balance sheet, actually, if I'm being honest. Um, and most people fail. Um, when I see a lot of businesses that go into administration, and it's rarely their profit and loss account, it's rarely actually their income and their sales. It's more often than not the way that they manage their cash flow and their balance sheet. So the way that they're structured in the first place with their debt and their equity. That's usually
Mhm.
what goes wrong within a business. Is that whole management of that side of the business. Um, so I don't. I think strategy is important, of course. It's business critical, but implementation of said strategy is is so important. And if you get that wrong, you won't get your cash flow right. You won't get your balance sheet right. You won't even get your profit and loss right. So I think the implementation,
Mhm.
identity, of course, is really important. It's as important as so many other aspects, but ultimately identity or not, if you don't implement right operationally, you will fail.
All right. Yeah, like that. I'm going to ask you three, four quick rapid fire questions. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see this one. So, one habit that changed your life.
Walking.
Okay.
Because I learnt that by being in nature and trying to empty my head makes me so much more present in every other aspect of my life, whether I am with my kids, whether I'm in a boardroom, whether I'm just sat doing my emails, whatever it might be. My ability to drain the adrenaline from my system by focusing on nature and, like I say, being present in nature, and moving. I'm a mover, like I have to
Mhm.
move. I'm very physically active. And I'm built like that, actually. And not only am I built like that, but mentally I need to move. Um, I think learning that
Mhm.
completely changed my life.
Good, good, good. And one book that challenged you the most or inspired you the most?
Um, Good question. I'm not a massive reader, actually, but years and years and years ago, I think the book that inspired me the most, I read it in my late 20s, so we are going back a bit now, was The 4 Hour Work Week.
Yes.
And I read that cover to cover and I was like, okay, this is the life I want.
Yeah. All right. And last rapid fire question is one thing that you wish schools taught you but never did.
That's a great question. Um, Pretty much a lot of the stuff that
Everything.
everything they don't teach you. Probably financial management.
Hmm.
I would say. I think that's probably the most important thing is that they don't teach you. I tried very, very hard to get it put on the curriculum in primary schools, actually, with Cameron's government. But after the Brexit referendum, I literally pretty much knocked on number 10 and nobody I knew answered. So it was a bit pointless and it was very, very hard to get it back in again. And never ended up getting any further with it. But I think we let people out into the world that really, really do not understand basics.
Mhm.
And I think it is more important that schools teach us some of the basics around life survival,
Yeah.
actually, than a lot of the stuff they do teach us.
You know what? I share something with you. I was a lecturer at the University of Stirling in Scotland, and I was doing public health, so nothing to do with business. When I left the 9 to 5 job about 6 years ago to go into property full time, I felt that fear, of leaving the job. Oh my goodness, security. So I applied secretly to other lecturer positions, but I wanted to do business. So I wanted to teach business at the same university. And I remember there were a couple of times I applied for the job, and I didn't even get invited to the interview. And by that time, I already crossed the six figures mark into the business. And when I questioned it, I said, just as a feedback for me to understand, what's the reason for not even being selected in the first, five or the first cut to give an opportunity for me to explain. And they said, well, you have businesses, you're overqualified. I was like, isn't this a business, lecturing business? So I found out later that they employed somebody with no business.
Oh my God, that's
So
crazy. I think
what
that
I'm
happens in civil service quite a lot.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is, even at university level, still they look for people to teach business. They don't have a business, so they cannot possibly understand the roller coaster in the business.
Well, therein lies our current problem with the government. I
Yeah,
mean, that is exactly the same problem with the government. None of them have ever run a business, none of them at
yeah,
all. No commercial now at all, or experience actually, and making really, really impactful, terrible decisions.
yeah.
Actually, that impact small businesses in the UK, which is our absolute. It's not just our heartbeat. It is everything about the
Mhm.
UK. Small businesses drive the UK. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're
So
on the
that
same
that's
page there.
still happens.
Yes.
Okay, so let's change a little bit the energy here, and let me ask you what exciting projects you have looking forward to, in the future.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a good question. We're at a really interesting phase with Nightcap, which is the business. We just bought the i360. That's where I am in Brighton today. Very nice weather, actually. Got the
I
chairs
can
up.
see the sunshine,
Yeah, it was terrible earlier, but the sun has come out now and it's so much better. Um, So there's more here and a good year of growth and investment, I think, this year, which will be really exciting. And we'll open quite a few more sites, I hope, which will be really
hmm
good. Um, who knows, we might do some stuff internationally, maybe.
right?
That could be fun, I think. But yeah, I'm really enjoying what I do at the moment. The I'm enjoying sort of breadth of projects that I work on. I'm loving, still just loving being a mom. I love it. Really, really love it. And my kids are a great age now, 19, 18, 16, and Marley's nearly 15. And I'm really enjoying home life, actually.
Mhm.
I'm enjoying being around them a lot. I'm enjoying traveling. So yeah, more of the same, I
Mhm.
actually, yeah, and who knows? I think you can't plan for what's coming into your inbox this afternoon.
So you work with Michael, right? Your
Yes.
husband.
Yeah.
How do you find this? Because I work with my wife Olga, so people think like because you live together, you shouldn't work together. But I feel like absolutely fine with that. So
Yes.
what's your feeling?
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody I'd rather work with. Like, I think he's exceptional, and nobody has my back like he does. He's just amazing. We have very complementing skills. So tick, tick, tick. Where I think sometimes it can be difficult is if, sometimes we might might handle stress differently.
Mhm.
And I very much try to, like, I'm quite introverted in that way. I might go for a walk, I might try and empty my head, I might cook. Whereas he needs to talk a lot. He's like it will all come out of him. And so we might that can sometimes be really difficult because I'd be like, no, 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 I'm removing it and you're putting it on me. And he'll be like, no, no, you can't be silent. I need you to listen.
Mhm.
So sometimes that's different because we handle stress very, very differently. We work with stress very, very differently.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way at all. But it definitely needs managing, I think, during not just stressful times, but also when it's all really great, because you can be in danger of just talking about work all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. So you just got to make sure that you remember to dream about life and
Yeah.
talk about the kids and talk about other stuff actually, not just work.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's the danger. You go back home and you keep talking about work, so you
Exactly.
never
Never
switch off.
really switch off. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. So last question for this interview here. And this one is more like to inspire other people. So if someone is, watching this, they know they're capable of more, but they feel afraid.
Yeah.
What would you say directly to them?
So I'd ask them why they were afraid. What are they afraid of? Um, and then I would talk through that fear. So I think one of the things that you've got to be, whenever I look at anything in front of me that feels outside of my comfort zone. So firstly, I welcome the fear because I'm like, yes, it means I'm progressing. It means I'm doing something new. That's exciting. That's great. You cannot change without you cannot progress without change. So you feel the fears. That's all really good. Um, and then I would say, whenever I look at something new, I always say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, really, what's my
Mhm.
absolute downside here? And it could be you lose everything. Well, if that's the case, don't do it.
Mhm.
Of course, don't do it if that's your downside. But look at what are you actually fearful of? And if it's fearful of failing, well, what does failure look like? What does that really mean? Do you lose the roof over your head? Don't do it. Do you damage your health? Don't do it. Um, do you have a dent in your reputation and your ego? That's not a reason to not do it. It's not great, but that should be a reason to do it. Do you lose cash? It'll hurt. Some money, it'll hurt, but it won't be the end.
Mhm.
That's not a reason to not do it. So, I would always look at, okay, where does that fear come from? And what can we do to mitigate that? But ultimately, if I can handle my downside, then I'll do it.
Wonderful, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Lovely to
And
see you and lovely to talk to you again.
fantastic. So if anybody is watching this, just comment below, put your questions, we'll answer directly, and don't forget to subscribe. So my name is Dr. Giuseppe Paladini. I'm here with Sarah Willingham, and thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.